Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Good morning, and welcome to another Good Morning Grief devotion. It's your boy, Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. So happy and excited to have this opportunity to come to you on this morning to lead you in a very special way and get another Good Morning Grief devotion. This is the daily grief devotion that is strategically designed to help you to navigate through your grief one day at a time. What is grief? I'm so glad you asked. Grief, my brothers and sisters, it is the natural, normal, and necessary response to loss, change, and transition that results in the expressions of feelings and emotions. Grief is what you feel on the inside. Mourning is how you reveal it on the outside. Therefore, we don't suppress it, but we express it. We don't ignore it, but we explore it. We don't conceal it, but we reveal it. We don't lock it up, but we let it out. And that's why we shout good morning, because mourning is a good thing. And I want to thank you for joining us on today as we dare to prepare to dive into another Good Morning Grief devotion. Today is day 76, and I'm so glad y'all in the mix. We gonna talk about if I feel guilty in any way, I need to talk about it. If I feel guilty in any way, I need to talk about it. As you navigate through your grief journey, there is the potential there for you to feel guilty in some type of way, right? Whether it's right or wrong, whether it's warranted or unwarranted, this may be a feeling or a season or something that you may ponder and process as you navigate through this grief journey. And I want to tell you, if you feel guilty in any way, in any shape, in any form, in any fashion, you need to talk about it. Whether you had something to do with the transition or not, right? You feel like you had, or even just after the fact, if they transition and gone on and you feel guilty about, man, I should have been better to them. I should have been more kind to them. I should have listened to them. I should have did that. Whatever the case may be. If you feel guilty in any way, guess what? You need to talk about it. This is the thing. I tell you all the time, we don't suppress, we express. We don't ignore, we explore. This is what you need to know and understand as you go through this grief process. Don't hold this to yourself. Don't keep it bottled in. Don't keep it on the inside. This is something that you need to express on the outside. And this is what the grief journey is all about. It's all about feeling, revealing, and healing. It's all about processing your pain. It's all about expressing what's going on the inside of you, right? And this is part of that process, even when it comes to guilt. Let's talk about it, y'all. After the death of someone loved, many grievers feel guilty about something. Some feel guilty about past events or behaviors. Some feel guilty that they are still alive while the person they love is not. Some feel guilty because they have a sense of release or relief after death. Some feel guilty when they allow themselves to experience happiness or joy during their time of grief. We talked about this, and it's so very important. I know people who have gone through all four or five of these things, right? Somebody dies, we feel guilty about something. Some feel guilty about past events or behaviors. There were things that we did in the past that now we feel guilty about, whether it was events, whether it's behaviors, things we've done, said, things we express, right? Things that maybe we said that we shouldn't have said, things that happened, or we told them we was going to do X, Y, and Z, and we never did X, Y, and Z. Or maybe that last interaction was not a cordial one, right? Or maybe we just look back over our interactions with them and just say it could have been different, right? I could have been better. I could have been kinder. I could have been more loving. I could have did this. I could. How come I didn't do this? How come I did? Some of us feel guilty in that particular sense about past events and behaviors. Some feel guilty that they are still alive and the other person is not. I think they call this survivor's remorse. Some feel guilty like, why me? If y'all was in a car accident and they died and you didn't, you start to feel guilty like, why am I still alive and they're not, right? Or if y'all was at a club and they got shot up and they died, but you didn't, people start to feel guilty, right? Parents go through this because they just say, God, take me instead. Why? Don't take my child, take me. So sometimes we feel guilty that we're still here and they're not, right? So we got to go through that and we got to process that. Some feel guilty because they have a sense of release or relief after death. Some people feel guilty because I'm not going to say that you're glad they're gone, but you have a sense of release or relief after they died. You see that they were suffering so bad, they was in so much pain they had whittled down to just a few pounds, or you just seen the pain that they were going through and everything that they had to endure, and you start to feel guilty, right, about the relief you feel that they're no longer here, right? And you like, what do I do with this? I got this feeling, but what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to feel what I'm feeling? And yet, some feel guilty when they allow themselves to experience happiness or joy during their time of grief. There are some people, you could be out and about, you could be happy, you can be having a good time, then all of a sudden you feel guilty for having a good time. You be like, how dare me? How dare me laugh and this person is dead? How dare me enjoy myself? How dare me have a good time? And so then we self sabotage ourselves and we no longer want to have a good time because we're feeling some type of way about enjoying ourselves, even in the midst of the circumstances of the situations. Yeah, we just feel guilty as we navigate through this process. You may feel some of those some of those things. These and other circumstances may give rise to guilt. If this happens to me, it doesn't mean I've done anything wrong. I want you to know it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. Remember, y'all, grief is the natural, normal, and necessary response to loss, change, and transition. You are going to feel a lot of different emotions, and guilt may be one of those emotions, right? I want to ask for anybody on here, have you experienced any of these? Have you experienced any of these? Because y'all don't talk. Y'all going to talk today just a little bit. Have you experienced any of these, right? And I ask this, how many of y'all have felt, guilty in one way or another? You don't even have to say what it is. How many of y'all have felt, some type of guilt in one way or another? Just put yes or put me or put something in the chat. How many of y'all have felt um, guilt in one way or another? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Miller Sharia. Sharia. Is it Sharia or Sharia? Thank you, Miss Cheryl Watson. Thank you, Miss LaShonda Bitten. Thank you, Miss Eunice Murray. Thank you, Miss Patrick. Thank you, Miss Henderson, Marla Talley. Sometimes. Thank you, Dolores Ryan, Nikisha. Thank you. Yes, I blame myself. Thank you, Miss Amy Patrick, Brother Dennis Cox, Miss Verna, Von McCants, Miss Laura, Miss Willette, Miss Mama. Thank you. So all of us, Miss Chandler. Thank you. So all of us, in one way or another, we have felt, you know, guilty in one way or another. Maybe it was one of the things that was announced. Maybe it was something different, right? But we all found ourselves in a position to where there's some type of guilt. We feel some type of guilt because of what has gone on. Pilar says guilt that I convinced my dad to go to the hospital and he died there alone because it was the prime of COVID. Yes, right? So we feel that. So what do we do with that? What do we do with that? How do we process that? How do we navigate through that, right? Because what we do is we walk around and we carry that. So many of y'all, so many of us, we carry our guilt, right? We carry it, we hold it. We hold it in our heart, we hold it on the inside. What are we supposed to do with this? How do we process this? And it eats up at us, right? How do we do? What do we do? What do we do with this? These and other circumstances may give rise to guilt. If this happens to me, it doesn't mean I've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. You got to remember, like I said, guilt is the natural, normal, and necessary, not guilt, grief. Grief is the natural, normal, necessary response to loss, change, and transition, right? That is natural, is normal, and necessary. You are going to feel a lot of different emotions. You are going to feel, and guilt is just one of them, right? You're going to feel a lot: pain, sadness, regret, joy, happiness, sorrow. I mean, you're going to feel all of this stuff, right? And that's just a part of it. So it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. I want you to know that and understand that. Because if not, then we'll put ourselves in a position to where we feel as if I did the wrong thing, right? I did the wrong thing. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It simply means that I'm having normal, conflicting human feelings and need to talk them out. I promise you, y'all, most of this stuff, guess what? We need to talk it out. We need to talk it out. Have you ever held something on the inside that you didn't express, you suppress, but eventually when you addressed it and you talked it out, not only did you feel better, but you were just able to navigate through the scenario, navigate through the situation, navigate through what happened and what took place. You are able to look at it now from a different vantage point. You're able to process it, you're able to deal with it, right? And that's what grief is. That's what mourning is, right? It's not bottling up on the inside, but it's revealing it on the outside. And you need to talk it out. Whatever it is, you need to talk through it. You need to talk through it. You need to express yourself. That is what's going to start to lead you on that path of healing, to be able to deal with it, right? To be able to come face to face with it, to be able to look it in the mirror, right? And no longer suppress it, but to address it. So it's important. It's natural, normal, and necessary. Number one, you got to know that. But you got to put yourself in a safe place and safe space to where, while you're having this normal, conflicting human feeling, you can talk it out. Here's the final thought: guilt is usually a story I tell myself. It is not my truth or essence. I love that. That guilt is usually, it's a story that I tell myself, but it is not my truth or essence. That's what you got to know. That guilt is a story that we tell ourselves, but it's not your truth and it's not your essence, right? And so I want you to be free. I want you to experience freedom and liberty as you navigate through your grief journey. This is part of it, having those conversations. And to those who feel guilty about this, that, or the other, don't suppress, express. Don't ignore, explore. Look it in the mirror, right? Have the conversation so that you can navigate through what you're feeling. Does hearing this very special message give you hope that you have nothing to feel guilty about? Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, Miss Dolores Ryan. Does hearing this very special message give you hope that you have nothing to feel guilty about? Absolutely. And that's part of even processing, right? That's part of processing. That's part of processing so that you come to this conclusion. We all come to different conclusions, right? And you could say, as I process this, I ain't gonna feel guilty about. Even if you felt guilty at first, you process and be like, you know what? I'm tripping. I ain't got nothing to feel guilty about. So that's why it's important for even this conversation. I know it's really a monologue and it's somewhat of a dialogue because y'all get to type back a little bit, but this is processing, right? And so you're hearing this, and so it is um you get hope that, well, I ain't got nothing to feel guilty about, right? And so this is good. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Yes, this lesson does give me hope. Amen. I'm so glad. I'm so very glad. And that's what this is designed to do, y'all. Step by step, day by day. We believe in small steps lead to great distances, and I'm here to help you as you navigate through your grief journey, to look at different aspects of it, to look at it from different angles, to help you to know and understand in different ways, just like different pieces of the puzzle. If you look at grief as like a puzzle that you got to put together, and it's all these different pieces, right? This is just a piece of that puzzle that we're putting together on the picture of grief. So we're dealing with the grief, we'll get dealing with the guilt aspect. Tomorrow we're gonna deal with something else. Yesterday we dealt with something else. So you got all of these pieces of the puzzle. As you look at last year, last year was a 365 piece of a puzzle that we dealt with different aspects of grief that we all put together to help us to navigate on our journey. Today is day 76, so we got 76 pieces of this puzzle, different aspects of grief, things that you may have never considered, things that you may have never thought about, that we deal with it. And so you put these pieces of the puzzle together so that you can navigate through your grief process and be a better version of yourself. Today, we're talking about the guilt. And so I hope that this puzzle piece has been profound as we articulate on it. Felicia Henderson says, I'm happy to be on here because it's definitely helping me. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Felicia. I appreciate it. I'm so glad. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all with the love of the Lord. Hope y'all have a sensational Saturday. Today is day 76. If I feel guilty in any way, I don't care what it is, in any way, guess what? I need to talk about it. I hope that you find safe places and safe spaces where you can safely articulate the cares of your heart. Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr., I love y'all with the love of the Lord. See y'all tomorrow. Let's go.